Priya, tell us about your writing process in the lockdown. How have you been keeping yourself busy? How have you been, I'm sure you're missing the stage. So how are you dealing with all of that as well?
As a performer, obviously stage is the best place to be because you feel the adrenaline. You're able to connect with a live audience. So obviously, I'm missing the stage a lot. It brings out the best in me. It makes me nervous and excited at the same time, and it makes me. I am at home when I'm on stage, so I'm really missing my home, so to speak.
Hmm.
At the same time, I am also enjoying one aspect of lockdown, which is similar that I'm able to connect to people who usually would not have been able to attend my shows. जो बाहर के लोग हैं, कनाडा, जर्मनी, जो बॉम्बे के बाहर के भी लोग हैं, छोटे छोटे शहरों से जो लोग हैं, जो आजकल मुझसे जूम पे कनेक्ट कर रहे हैं विद माय वर्कशॉप्स और इन माय ओपन माइक्स और समथिंग लाइक दिस व्हाट वी आर डूइंग राइट नाउ, जो लोग आके लाइव शो अटेंड नहीं कर सकते इन नॉर्मल सर्कमस्टेंसेस, लॉकडाउन के दौरान वो लोग भी ज्वाइन कर पा रहे हैं. तो आई थिंक कहीं ना कहीं एक सिल्वर लाइनिंग भी दिख रही है लॉकडाउन की, that I'm able to connect to people who I would have normally not been able to connect with. So I really appreciate that. I'm very grateful for that. In terms of writing, I have been writing a little bit here and there. I've always spoken about the fact that I need to be pregnant with a poem in order to
Hmm.
deliver a poem. So I really need to feel the piece. I really need to be in labor. My water needs to break naturally. I should just have kids. I'm using so many baby metaphors. um, लेकिन मेरे लिए एक पोएम अपने बच्चे की तरह ही है, तो मैं आई कांट फोर्स माय राइटिंग, which is not always a good thing. As writers हमें disciplined होना चाहिए. We should technically write every day, but that's not how I operate as a writer. I can only write when I'm really feeling something. So sometimes if I'm writing really short things like दो लाइनें या तीन लाइनें, I often use them in my Instagram as captions. In fact, 2019 में 1999 was actually also a caption on my Instagram. And then I expanded that into a poem. तो थोड़ा बहुत मैं experiment करती रहती हूँ. But this piece, coming back to this, the shade, "Tu Ban Sherni, Tu Dikha Dum," is actually very important for me because इस पीस को लिखने से मैंने डिफरेंट जॉनरा एक्सप्लोर किया, राइट. ये वीर रस की कविता है. इफ वी टॉक अबाउट इट इन कविता के टेक्निकल टर्म्स, वो ललकार रही है अपनी ऑडियंस को, अपने दुश्मनों को, और लास्ट लाइन में कहती है तो युद्धभूमि में आ तो सही.
Hmm.
आई लव दैट बिट. I love what this poem is sort of the Hindi version of when he told me he no longer loved me. Does that make sense?
हाँ.
It's like a lioness. She's on this journey,
हाँ
and
जी.
then she takes you onto it. और काफी भारी हिंदी भी इसमें मैंने इस्तेमाल करने की कोशिश की है, जो शब्द मैं यूजुअली अपनी पोइट्री में नहीं यूज करती थी. So this gave me an opportunity to explore language in a different way. And I would love to know what people's favorite lines are if they have seen the piece,
हाँ
or what
गाइस,
your favorite line is for that
डेफिनेटली.
matter.
दोस्तों, आप में से जिसने भी ये नई पोएम सुनी है प्रिया की, प्लीज टेल अस इन द कमेंट्स व्हाट आर योर फेवरेट लाइंस. टिल देन, प्रिया, व्हाई डोंट यू टेल अस व्हाट इज योर फेवरेट लाइन फ्रॉम द पोएम?
So I have a few favorite lines in this piece. Obviously, the last line, as I said, "आज मैंने तुझे ललकारा है तो युद्धभूमि में आ तो सही." When I was performing, I felt like stamping my foot, like आ तो सही. तो वो line मुझे बहुत अच्छी लगती है क्योंकि उस line में बहुत that line itself is an action, right? And I love that line. But one line that I really like, and when I wrote it, I was like, I can't believe I wrote this line, was uh, uh, जीतते वो हैं जिनका नाम मरने के बाद भी लिया जाता है. तो तू नाम याद रख मेरा, तेरे काम जरूर आएगा. तेरा राम नाम जब सत्य होगा, मेरा नाम तेरी जुबान पे आएगा. I loved that line.
क्या बात है.
It's a very powerful line कि तेरा राम नाम जब सत्य होगा, मेरा नाम तेरी जुबान पे आएगा. I really like that line. So actually, that line has always stood out to me. It's a very strong line, and it's a line that you would only use for an enemy. But I like the power that line holds.
दो तीन लोग कह रहे हैं कि देयर फेवरेट लाइन इज द लास्ट लाइन, कि तू युद्ध भूमि में आ तो सही.
A lot of people have been DMing me about that as well.
हाँ, फिर कोई कह रहा है भरोसा वही तोड़ते हैं जिन पे भरोसा किया जाता है. आई थिंक दैट्स वन ऑफ माय फेवरेट लाइंस फ्रॉम द पोएम.
Yeah, and that's from the trailer. So whenever I'm writing for a show, I've written for a few shows by now, and when I'm writing for a show, I always make sure that I'm able to capture the essence of the show, right? तो
हम्म,
आपने देखा होगा सिमर की ये लाइन एक्चुअली ट्रेलर में बोली जाती है कि
हाँ जी।
भरोसा वही तोड़ते हैं जिन पे भरोसा किया जाता है,
हमें
एंड आई रियली
हमें
रियली लाइक
आज
दैट लाइन.
आज के स्ट्रीम का पहला सुपर चैट आया है रमनीक सिंह से। रमनीक सिंह से
हाँ.
सुपर चैट आया है, वो पूछ रहे हैं प्लीज टेल अस हाउ डू यू इंटरनलाइज अ कैरेक्टर, इज इट अ स्लो प्रोसेस और इट कम्स नेचुरल टू यू?
So usually जब भी हम किसी कैरेक्टर के लिए लिख रहे होते हैं, कैरेक्टर पीओवी से लिख रहे होते हैं, I like to do my research and I will give you an example. For instance, मैंने ये शो देखा हुआ था, right? मैंने शो का ट्रेलर देखा हुआ था, लेकिन मेरे को ये नहीं पता था कि आर्या नाम का क्या मतलब होता है,
हाँ
right?
जी।
So I try and go a little bit beyond what I'm seeing in front of me to make my writing better and to make my performance better. So when I researched Arya as a word, it's a Sanskrit, the origin is Sanskrit, और उसका मतलब होता है गॉडेस दुर्गा, और कहीं कहीं गॉडेस पार्वती के लिए भी आर्य शब्द का इस्तेमाल किया जाता है. तो ये जो छोटी छोटी नुआंसेस होते हैं, ये मैं हमेशा रिसर्च करती हूँ in order to get as closer to the character as possible. So goddess Durga, she's fierce. So I wanted to have as much information as possible in order to embody the character better. It's not always a very quick process, but it doesn't take me too long either. I think the more I research, I love learning. So the more I learn, the more knowledgeable I am about the subject matter, the better I'm able to write and perform.
डेफिनेटली, थैंक यू। आई थिंक दैट वाज अ वेरी गुड क्वेश्चन, थैंक यू रमनीक। और किसी के भी आपके जो भी क्वेश्चंस हैं दोस्तों, मैं देख रहा हूँ बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस आ रहे हैं, लेकिन हम आपका क्वेश्चन इतने क्वेश्चंस में देख नहीं पाएंगे, तो आप प्लीज़ use super chat to send us your question if you really want us to answer it. One question that came again and again by someone was, and that someone is Nandana Nair, who asks, what was your feeling when Sushmita ma'am reacted to your poem on Twitter?
So there's a long story. I have loved Sushmita Sen since 1994, since she became Miss Universe. और उस समय मैं 7 साल की थी, right? I'm 1987 born, so I was 7 years old, and I was in class 2, I think third में मैं आने वाली थी, और एक वो essay का prompt दिया गया था, what do you want to be when you grow up, your ambition in life. And बहुत सारे हमारे क्लास के बच्चों ने लिखा, किसी ने लिखा I want to be a doctor, I want to be an engineer, I want to be a teacher. I wrote I want to be Miss Universe. And then I explained in the next 2 paragraphs why. And the teacher loved it so much, the principal loved it so much, they read it out in the school assembly. It's a very vivid memory in my head because ये सब actually में ऐसा हुआ था. उसके बाद मेरे घर में मेरे सब लोग मेरे को चिढ़ाने लगे Miss Universe, Miss Universe. And I was also one of those kids who loved being the center of attention, like the whole school knew me and this and that. तो वो Miss Universe का खिताब वो हमेशा रहा मेरी personal life में कहीं ना कहीं. Obviously I'm not tall enough. I'm 5 feet 3 inches, so I never got into modeling or beauty pageant industry, so to speak.
Right.
But that always stayed with me. And I really admire Sushmita Sen क्योंकि आज से कितने 18 साल पहले, राइट? 18 साल पहले उन्होंने एक लड़की को गोद लिया था as a single mother without doing publicity and PR about it. She did it when nobody else was doing it. Similar, आजकल adoption ज़्यादा common हो गई है, बहुत ज़्यादा common हो गई है, surrogacy common हो गई है. She did it when nobody else was doing it. She was a pioneer of it. As a single woman, for her to take that step and to not make it a PR activity, which she very well could have, I have always admired that in her. And I've always followed her interviews, always followed her as a person, and I can really resonate with her character. She carries herself with so much grace. She speaks beautifully. So there was all of that. Then in 2016, going back 4 years ago, I did an event in Goa where I was performing, and Sushmita was the showstopper of a fashion show just before me at the same event. And as soon as I had seen the posters with my name and her name next to it, I was like, oh my god, I'm finally gonna meet her. Or मैं कभी नहीं होती starstruck. I'm like one of the very few people who I don't usually get starstruck, बहुत rarely. And then when I met her off stage, backstage, she was the same person who the 7-year-old Priya had been imagining all her life.
Hmm.
She spoke to me very warmly, and I'm sure she didn't remember, okay, this is Priya Malik, the poet, and all of that. So then, when that tweet came, it was like a whole circle coming together, from 1994, all of those years, to 2016, which was a very brief meeting, to finally 2020, where Sushmita was praising me for what I have actually become, for my ambition in life.
Right.
तो वो ऐसे से लेके यहाँ तक, I hope that makes sense. It was like a circle that kind of completed itself for me.
Hmm. I think
Sorry for the
that's
very
really
long answer.
nice to hear. क्योंकि and बहुत लोग पूछ रहे हैं कि who is your role model, who do you look up to? But I feel like just getting a chance to in a way work with somebody whose work you've looked up to, you've been inspired by, is very inspiring. And I'm sure there are a lot of
Yeah.
people in the chat right now who are very inspired, who love your work. आप please हमें chat में बताओ what is your favorite poem by Priya. My question for you is, Priya, what do you uh, you know uh, what advice would you want to give to someone who really looks up to you and wants to be where you are or wants to be someone like you?
I would give you the same advice that I gave to myself, that you will find your path, and only you will find your path. All of that, this whole story that I've told about, मैं ये बनना चाहती थी, फिर मैं ये, फिर ये, फिर ये, फिर ये, फिर ये. So follow your own journey and don't let anyone else tell your story. At the end of the day, I have done that as well. I've taken a lot of twists and turns. I've sometimes taken the wrong turn, but at the end of the day, I've still continued to follow the path in
Hmm.
spite of obstacles, in spite of successes, failures, and I've finally in life learned how to fail. I think it is so beautiful to learn how to fail gracefully, and I've always been a very competitive person who did not believe in losing and failing. I think in the last couple of years, I have learned how important it is to fail with grace, how important it is to lose with grace, how important it is to let go with grace. And if there is anything I can tell people, I would say, yes, follow your own path. Don't be afraid to lose and fail and fall on the way.
That's awesome. Saurav Mishra has sent a super chat saying, Priya ma'am and Simmer, you both are inspiration. Thank you so much, Saurav.
Thank
Uh,
you, Saurabh.
People are sending a lot of names of your poems. I'm not going to be able to read all of them, but someone saying "You" is their favorite poem. "Broken but Beautiful" is their favorite poem. Uh, "Right to Learn." Somebody has constantly
Oh,
said "Right to
nice.
Learn" is their all-time favorite poem, and I know that is one
It's one
poem
of my favorites as well.
जो आपकी बहुत पर्सनल पोम है आपकी बहुत पर्सनल लाइफ से रिलेटेड है तो हाउ डिड यू कम अबाउट
Yes.
राइटिंग दैट पीस एंड परफॉर्मिंग इट
So it's actually one of my most personal pieces, because this is where I talk about my mother and I talk about the reality of my life at that time. And my mother is definitely one of the people that I've always looked up to in my life as well, and how she has taught me things without explicitly teaching me things. And I think that's the beauty of those lessons, that they were learned in a very subtle and indirect way and learned by seeing her doing those things. So that piece came about, similar, the backstory of that piece, right?
Yeah.
How you had told us that, we need to do something for World Education Day. And there were actually, it wasn't just World Education Day, बहुत सारी ऐसी चीजें थी जिनके बारे में हम लिख सकते थे. But we chose education because education definitely is the key to change. और हमारे देश में, there is a very small percentage of a small percentage of our GDP is actually focused on education. There is a reason कि हमारे देश में गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स को लोग कहते हैं, अरे नहीं नहीं नहीं, हम तो अपने बच्चों को प्राइवेट स्कूल भेजेंगे, यहाँ पे पब्लिक बोलते हैं अपने बच्चों को पब्लिक स्कूल गवर्नमेंट में नहीं भेजेंगे, क्योंकि वो भरोसा टूट चुका है, राइट? सरकारी स्कूलों से भरोसा टूट चुका है. मेरे घर में जो हाउस हेल्प है मेरी, वो भी अपनी बेटी को क्यों भेजती है एक कॉन्वेंट स्कूल में, क्योंकि वो भी सोचती है कि सरकारी स्कूल से उसकी बेटी आगे नहीं बढ़ पाएगी. और कहीं ना कहीं मैं समझती हूँ कि ये बात, अगर हमें कोई भी इम्प्रूवमेंट करनी है एज अ कंट्री, दैट्स वन थिंग वी मस्ट इम्प्रूव ऑन, बिकॉज when we make our government education system great, that's when ये जो पूरी किल्लत होती है ना, that you have to send your kids to a good school and you have to pay a high fee for it. I wish there comes a day when we don't have to do that. I wish there comes a day where our faith in the government education system is equal, if not greater, than it is in our private education system. So this piece kind of came from that feeling as well, because I know how much my parents had struggled to send me to a good school. And obviously I ended up completing my education, I ended up doing a few degrees, I ended up becoming a teacher myself. And when I was teaching in Australia, I taught in all kinds of schools. I taught in the most expensive school in Adelaide, as well as the one of the what we call the lower social demographic school of Adelaide as well. बट मैंने सबसे ज्यादा एंजॉय कहाँ किया, मैंने वहाँ किया जो गवर्नमेंट स्कूल था, जहाँ पे जो बच्चे थे उनके माँ बाप जेलों में थे, सम ऑफ देम डिड नॉट हैव मनी टू ईट फूड, बट जब वो क्लास में आते थे, so I used to make sure that myself और जितने भी बाकी के teachers थे, that they get the best education that they possibly can. And we had students who ended up becoming engineers, ended up becoming doctors, ended up becoming artists, ended up getting enrolled in the Navy. So that poem has a lot of layers to it. And people say once a teacher, always a teacher. I take pride in that because I think somewhere I'll always be a teacher. And thank God that I have had the honor and the privilege of being a teacher to somebody in my life.
Yeah, I think,
So right to education was very important.
and I think that sort of also is translated now with your current workshop that's been going on, Priya Ki Pathshala, and so much love
Yes.
that it's getting. So it's great.
And the UnErase Master Academy.
And the UnErase
Don't forget.
Academy as well. So we're getting some comments. Somebody has been bombarding the comments with the half revolution was the inspiration for me. Love that poem. Uh, and I saw a very interesting comment. Somebody said that I write in German, but you are my favorite poet.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I think
I appreciate that.
that's
Thank you
really
so
sweet.
much. I
Uh,
think German as a language is so beautiful. There are so many of those beautiful words in German which don't even have a translation in literal English. And I think you're already writing in a very beautiful language. And there's a beauty in knowing more than one language. So hats off to you for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Priya. I think there's so much to learn for so many of us from your journey, and we're looking forward to more of your work. Do you have something to share with the viewers? आपकी अगली पोएम कब आ रही है, कहाँ आ रही है, कैसे सुन सकते हैं, किस चीज़ के बारे में है?
So अभी तो मैं आपको प्रॉमिस नहीं कर सकती कि कब आ रही है. I don't know when I'll be pregnant with a poem next. I can't predict it. I don't have my ovulation calendar in front of me. uh, but I'm sure that it will come out soon. I've actually told myself that I need to write a little bit more, so I'm being my own teacher here, and being really slightly more strict, slightly stricter than on myself about my writing, and hopefully I will be coming up with a few more pieces in the next couple of months, and you will find me where you always find me on UnErase Poetry, on Spill Poetry, on my own Instagram, but I will be out there. I really, really want to write an English piece now, so that's for sure.
Awesome.
I have a few things which are in my draft section. I write in my Gmail. Have I told you that ever?
Yeah.
So my drafts have reached 57 now. I've got 57 unwritten poems, or rather incomplete poems, sitting there. So I'm sure I'll complete one of them very soon.
I think that's very exciting for all your fans right now. Okay, they have 57 unfinished pieces, which hopefully they'll get to listen.
Some of them have been sitting there for years, immersed. Out of those, that's 57 in 5 years. That's not a large number. That's like 5 a year.
Yeah, that's okay.
No, actually, 12 a year.
But anyways, I think we can move on with this live chat. I think it's been fun. Before we go, somebody has been commenting, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to listen to you recite few lines. They're saying कि recite 2 lines from Broken but Beautiful, but I'll keep it open. आपको जो भी poem आपकी मन कर रही है, जो आपको याद है, जो आपको लगता है, you would want to end this chat with, I think it'll be great if we can hear you read a few lines to us.
कुछ चीजों की कीमत उनके टूटने के बाद बढ़ जाती है, जैसे कि दिल, रिश्ते और उन रिश्तों में उलझे हुए लोगों के टूटे-फूटे सदमे. In Japan, there is the art of kintsugi, where broken ceramics are put back together again, to remind you and remind me that broken can be beautiful. Yeah. There you go.